So welcome everyone to our first event in our Wellbeing in the Workplace series. So great to see everyone with us this morning. For those who are just now tuning into our webinar series events, it's nice to meet you. I'm your host of this series, Sarah Moore. I'm legal counsel and business development for Benefit Bump. And the reason we pulled this event together and invited BrightDime, David, if you want to click to the next slide, I'll go ahead and speak to this. The reason we pulled this event together and invited BrightDime as a guest speaker is that we've been working with employees throughout their growing family journey. And overwhelmingly, our employees are concerned about their financial situation and are grateful for knowledge and access to resources to alleviate the financial burden and plan for upcoming expenses. With the average out-of-pocket cost to have a baby being about $4,500 and many employees not having full income replacement during maternity leave, having a financial plan becomes especially important to growing families. It's not surprising that so many of our participants are seeking financial resources because 17% of working and expecting parents are struggling day-to-day financially. 46% of working new and expectant parents are struggling month to month financially. That is a very large percentage of the population that's truly struggling on either a day-to-day or month-to-month situation. It's astounding. And just a few more stats, 83% of Americans are worried about their long-term finances and 80% are concerned about their short-term financial situation. So our Wellbeing in the Workplace series event, we're kicking it off with financial wellness and well-being. Very excited to have David Stedman, CEO of BrightDime, here with us this morning to discuss the importance of having financial supports and resources in an employer's benefits ecosystem. David, thank you for walking us through some of the pain points, the potential solutions, and why it makes sense for an employer to support their employees' financial wellness, especially those of growing families. And tune in, before I turn it over to you, David, tune in. We're going to have, in addition to this financial wellness session, we're going to host an emotional well-being session and a social well-being session as well in our future Wellbeing in the Workplace series events. So be on the lookout for those. But right now, financial wellness with David. Thank you so much, and I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate it. I love that you're throwing out all those stats. I'm a math guy, so the more stats you throw out, the more I like, and I think it really demonstrates how important financial wellness is. Before I get started, I wanted to say how much I appreciate Benefit Bump. There's no doubt that employees do not understand how to navigate benefits, the benefits that they have. Benefit Bump does such a great job at helping them meet this need. I met Scott, the CEO of Benefit Bump, a few months ago from a mutual friend, and he immediately recognized the need for financial wellness in growing families and wanted to work with BrightDime to help the employees reduce their stress. So that's a long way of saying, thanks for having me today. It's great to be here. We're excited to be working with Benefit Bump. The agenda for today is pretty simple. We want to first tell you how we define financial wellness, talk about why there is a need in the market today, help you understand the options that employers have for financial wellness, and then the benefit that the employers will get from offering financial wellness. And then last, I want to tell you a little bit about BrightDime, how we do it and what we do, and then we'll open it up for questions. But having said that, the more informal we make this, I think the better. If you have questions along the way, just type them in, and somebody will interrupt me and say, hey, we have a question. Let's stop right here and talk a little bit about something specific that's on your mind. But otherwise, please have some questions ready for the end of the presentation. So let's start out by talking about what is financial wellness. And that may seem kind of silly because the way we define it, I hope, is logical. But there's a lot of people, a lot of companies out there that are calling themselves financial wellness companies, a lot of lenders, a lot of people, a lot of companies that are offering their paychecks early, or employees paychecks early, student loan companies. Those are all specific needs potentially for an employee. But from our perspective, financial wellness is about helping families make smart, informed financial decisions to make them confident about those decisions they're making. And we look at this as a journey, a long-term journey, where along the way, you're making small adjustments to make sure that you're building a resilient enjoyable, stable, healthy, and prosperous family life and at home and at work. And that all sounds great, but that is not an easy task. And that's what we're here to help families do. And then the last bullet point here is actually my favorite of the three. And it's financial wellness allows families to think less about money. And that may seem ironic because, BrightDime is a financial wellness company, and you would think we want people thinking more about money. Well, we don't. People don't want to spend their every day or even, a week on a weekly basis worrying about, stressing about their financial situation. So if we can make that situation stable and help them think less about money and spend more time doing the things that they love to do with their family and friends, then that's success in our world. So that's how we're defining financial wellness at BrightDime. So let's also think about, is there truly a need for financial wellness in the market? And I present the need only by presenting problems. And with those problems comes needs. The first problem is that it costs over $260,000 to raise a child for a middle income family, almost $200,000 for single parents. That is an astronomical amount of money to layer on top of somebody. And when somebody's thinking about having a child and they're getting pregnant and they're building their family, there's so much excitement and joy behind that. But what people aren't thinking about is the cost of doing that. And I can tell you, it becomes a pretty big shock to a lot of people. The second problem is that most families, when they're having children and they're at that stage where they're building their family, and again, there's so much joy and excitement, but they're not thinking about further in the future, what should they be planning financially? And most parents, when they're at kind of my stage in life, my kids are older, they're looking back and they're saying, gosh, I wish I had thought about building my child's college fund or starting an emergency fund and budgeting for my child care and health care at the beginning and saving more for retirement along the way. It's easy to look back and wish you had done that. And 57% of parents do look back and wish they had done more. And then the third problem is really relevant in today's world with COVID, that childcare is really expensive. It costs about $8,300 for the average amount of the average family spend annually on childcare. That is a lot of money just to say, hey, if you have 1, 2, 3 children, that is difficult to manage. And so what we're trying to do is help people understand how their employment, compensation, their benefits within a company can help solve that problem number 3. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is those are 3 very obvious problems. I hope that makes sense to everybody. But I want to add a statistic that when I'm talking about BrightDime and I'm giving a presentation just on BrightDime, the one stat that I always point out is that about 75% of people in America are living paycheck to paycheck. Now you take that 75% number and you combine it with these 3 problems, and you can see why there is so much stress with families and in their going down their financial path. It is hard. Now, these problems may result in families going paycheck to paycheck, but if a family's paycheck to paycheck before they encounter these 3 problems, they're even in more trouble and probably are starting to build debt. And so that's where financial wellness and well-being comes into play, and we can help people manage that path. So what can employers do about this? We've got good, better, and best. And the reason we put it that way is that anything an employer does, we're happy about. The whole objective here is to help people understand their financial situation, get them on the right path. And so anything a company does, we say is good. So under the good, we're hoping companies are going to spotlight relevant employee benefits such as healthcare, childcare, maternity leave, paid time off. These are things where benefit bump really comes in handy, and they help employees optimize their benefits and enables the employees to return to work when they want to. We also want that employer to promote existing financial resources that are available, things like 401k, HSA, helping them understand how those are both great savings tools. there might be an EAP that the employer has that has some kind of financial wellness program that's associated with it. It's important that the employees understand what they have and that they take advantage of it. And then the last bullet point here is probably my least favorite, but is one that can be useful. And that is educate employees on free apps they can download for budgeting and planning. Free is great. We all love free, but we also, I hope we all know that nothing truly is free. And so any app that's out there on budgeting and planning, the app might be great, but unquestionably, they are also trying to sell the employees something else. So my worry there is that employees may buy something or get a credit card or a mortgage or life insurance that may not be suitable for that employee. So that last bullet point, it can be helpful there, but there's also a risk associated with that. Now, then we jump to the better. Better is where you have an employer that is willing to offer financial education for those employees, where they can start, where employees have a resource that they can use to educate themselves on family planning and from a financial perspective. The other thing that employers can do is to offer discounts of goods and services. And it could be in somewhere like Costco or a gym membership or diapers or things like that. Any penny that we can help that family save can be helped in raising that child and managing a budget and not going into debt. And again, breaking that paycheck to paycheck cycle. And then we go to the best. And now I'm super biased on this one, obviously, but I do think, and I'm going to tell you more about BrightDime, but if you could provide BrightDime, if the employer provides BrightDime, we're a holistic financial wellness solution that can be provided through Benefit Bump. And if you want to know about how we're working Benefit Bump, please ask. We can talk to you about how we're working together and how we're creating a partnership where we can work with the people that Benefit Bump are helping and show those families a smart and sustainable financial path. BrightDime's coaches and digital platform educate and help families create a positive money habits through every stage of their financial life. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about BrightDime in a few minutes, but again, we think that is the best solution. But let's keep on the path of talking about employers and how it helps employers and why should they invest in financial wellness. I got 4 business cases here. And I'm going to talk about each one of those. But if you look at this, it says 300% ROI for the employer. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, where's that ROI come from? I didn't want to put all the details of that in this slide. If you want to see our ROI report, we go through the math of how we create that ROI and how the employer is getting a return on investment in financial wellness. And we're happy to send it to you. Just send us an email and we'll shoot it right off to you. But we believe there's a great return on investment in investing in financial wellness. But let's walk through each of these business cases. Business case number 1. We're reducing family stress. Stress and anxiety lead to poor birth outcomes and development challenges for children, as well as higher healthcare costs. We all know that if there's any way that we can start reducing healthcare costs, that's a great benefit for the employee. For the employer, well, an employee for that matter. If we can lower stress and we can help people not worry about their finances, that is certainly going to lower healthcare costs. Business case number 2, improve families' financial security and help them prepare for the future. This will reduce workplace distractions and increase productivity. There's a stat out there and I wish I could remember it off the top of my head. I'm sorry that I can't. I probably should have written it down, but there's a stat that how many days a year that employees miss because of financial issues and financial stresses. We can reduce the number of days that employee is going to miss because of financial stress, and that will increase their productivity. Okay, business case number 3, enhance your organization's culture of care, which should improve retention. I think number 3 and number 4, I'll just read 4 real quick, attract top talent while increasing loyalty and morale. Retaining employees and attracting new employees, I think that is probably one of the biggest issues that employers are having these days because of COVID and the great demand for workers these days. I can't tell you how many companies we're working with that are saying they want to use BrightDime. We're really being used a lot, honestly, to attract new employees. They're when they give an offer, we've got a couple companies that are doing this. They'll go to that employee or potential employee and say, "Hey, not only are we giving you an offer, here are the benefits that includes BrightDime, and here's how BrightDime can help you." And it's been working really well in helping to attract employees. But if you're creating that culture of family so that the employee feels like they have their work family and then their home family, the likelihood of them being loyal to your company goes up significantly. So those are the 4 business cases that I think are make a good justification for investing in financial wellness. So here's where I talk a little bit more about BrightDime and what we do. And there are actually a lot of words on this, so I'm just going to kind of try to put it in a big picture perspective. Kind of think of BrightDime as a 3-legged stool. It starts with data-driven money tools. So we are a company that aggregates accounts so that the parents can securely link all their accounts in one place so that they have all their spending, their debt, their investments, their budgets, their goals, all in one place. So they can use BrightDime for everything financial. And it's a way that they can keep up with their budget and keep up with their goals and make sure that they stay on the right track. The next thing that we do, the second leg of that stool, is unlimited expert financial coaching. This is probably our most distinctive factor. There are other companies that provide coaching, but how we provide it is different than anybody else out there. First of all, it is unlimited. An employee can use the coaches as much or as little as they want. But the cool thing about our coaching and what makes it different than anything else out there is that when the employee and the coach link within the BrightDime platform. So one thing I didn't say, we're 100% digital. So everything runs through that platform. So when the employee and the coach link within that platform and they start communicating within the platform, the employee can also share his platform with the coach. So the coach can see this employee's budget, the employee's balance sheet, what their debt situation looks like, their spending, their income, has a holistic picture of that employee's financial life so that the coach doesn't have to spend the first 30 minutes of the conversation trying to learn about that employee. So it makes the communication time between the employee and the coach more efficient, more effective, and more relevant for that employee. And we have found that we have changed thousands of people's lives just through our coaching. And it is a great asset for that employee to have when using BrightDime. So the third leg of the stool that I'm referring to is tailored education. Just about every financial wellness company out there has education that they're offering employees. The way we offer education is a little bit different. The key word there is tailored. So we have a lot of data on our users. We don't monetize that data in any shape or form, but we do use that data to push out content, whether it's webinars, articles, videos, whatever it may be, that we think might be relevant for that family or that individual user. So if we have a user coming from Benefit Bump, we're going to be sending out content that talks about, say, 529 plans or child tax credits or things that we think might be relevant for a family with a young child or a new family. So the way we deliver content, we think, is better for engagement and more likely to keep that employee engaged. So those are the 3 legs of the stool. The last bullet point here, though, is, I think, very relevant in today's world. One of the key drivers of success for BrightDime is being able to quickly gain the trust of our users. And the reason we can do that is because we are unbiased and independent. And all that means is we don't have any products or services that we sell. Most of the other companies out there are getting into financial wellness so they can sell their other products or services. Our only mission is to help people down a smart and sustainable financial path. So again, because we're not biased, because we have no other products to sell, it's easy to gain trust of that employee. And once we have their trust, they tend to continue to use us, hopefully for their lifetime. So with that, I hope it all made sense. It was pretty quick in going through BrightDime and the other various things. So I hope you have some questions. What you have here are contact information for both BrightDime and Benefit Bump. You have Sarah, who's on our call today, who introduced me. And on the BrightDime side, you have Dan Komisar, and he's our strategy and growth, chief strategy and growth officer. Please feel free to write down his number, his email address. You can contact us through our website as well. You are absolutely welcome to email me as well. My email address is david.stedman, STEDMAN, @brightdime.com. I put Dan's there because he, if you're interested in seeing a demo of BrightDime, or you want some contents of, we got more content than you can ever imagine on whether it's a one pager or a presentation or whatever you want to ask about, we've got it, and Dan would be your guide to get that. We can also send you a video of a demo if you don't want it live from one of us. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. Once I get going, it's hard to make me stop. So I'm going to finally stop and see if there are any questions out there.
So thank you, David. Yep, just a super quick wrap up. And then it looks like we've got some questions in the chat. So we will absolutely get to those. Just want to do a quick thank you to David for sharing with us some of the pain points, the good, better, and best solutions, and the business case for helping employers solve for their employees' financial stressors and concerns. Benefit Bump and BrightDime working together, we create the optimal financial wellness program for growing families, with Benefit Bump connecting employees to an employer's financial wellness resources and employee benefits, and BrightDime providing that extensive financial coaching and budgeting opportunities that David was talking about. So please reach out. I know we've gone over contact information. And now, Scott, I believe we have a question in the chat that just came through.
Yeah, so it says, good morning, David. Please say more about the training for BrightDime advisors. Are they trained CPAs, or do they receive any licensing as financial advisors, e.g. Series 7?
Yeah, great question. Do not have Series 7. Well, that's not necessarily true. I do coach from time to time, and I have my 7.3 and 63. My prior life was actually Wall Street and in the trading world, and I left that to kind of say, hey, I don't know if any of you have been in that world, but you don't come home from work every day going, wow, I really did something for somebody. So after a long career on Wall Street, I left there to start BrightDime and help people. So with the exception of me, not the Series 7, but we do have CFAs, CFPs, which is actually more relevant in financial coaching, I think. Having said that, not every one of our coaches have CFAs and CFPs, and the reality of a lot of our coaching is that you don't need those for the large majority of the questions that come through. We get tons of questions about debt and about trying to how to manage paying bills, how to get kids through college, and those kinds of things. But every one of our coaches has extensive financial backgrounds and experience. And depending on the question will depend on kind of what coach answers that question.
And then the next question might be for both of us. So I understand the concept of helping growing families. Do you have any services to help with elder care? And so at Benefit Bump, we do support a number of different caregiving scenarios that families may be looking to address. Our focal point at this point is typically on the growing family. But in a prior webinar, we had learned through some research we did with another organization that more than half of growing families are navigating multiple major life events at the same time. And it could be a financial crisis, it could be elder care, it could be a personal injury, or any number of things. So we do support the family as these issues arise, but we're not necessarily focused on elder care. But David, I would imagine you have quite a few folks that are trying to figure out a financial plan if they're trying to care for their immediate family as well as an aging parent.
Yeah, no question about it. So I guess what I think of one of the beauties of BrightDime and our coaching is that there's nothing that's off limits. So if somebody has an aging parent and they're trying to figure out how to financially manage through that, all these life events that we talk about, whether it's having your first child or trying to help your aging parent, involves financial stress. So our coaches can help guide and advise people on that situation specifically. And we have certainly had that situation arise. So we do help people manage through it.
And then Sarah, I think you had a couple emails that came in before the session. If you want to maybe hit one or two of those in our remaining couple minutes.
Yeah, so just to get to those super quickly, we had a question: what is a must-have financial resource for an employer's growing families?
Again, I mentioned being biased, but I think I'm biased in a really good way, in that I think, and this relates to BrightDime, that's why I say I'm biased, I think it's really important for a growing family to have a coach. When you're in that situation, things are coming at you left and right constantly. And when it's a financial issue, most families, honestly, and I did this too, when a financial question comes about, that one I put to the side, because I was like, I got all this other stuff to deal with. But if you can have a coach there that you can quickly access and get an answer to that question quickly and efficiently, then it makes life a lot easier and you can check that off your box. So to me, a coach is the most important thing to have, especially for a growing family.
Well, and this question kind of piggybacks. So another question we got was, what are the typical questions parents ask their BrightDime financial coaches? And I think that was a nice segue, David, into that question.
Yeah, so we get most questions actually about debt from the general population. But if we're talking about families and growing families, it's kind of a cycle. It's interesting. The first is kind of the first child, and almost probably, I don't know this for sure, but I would guess 7-8 months into the pregnancy, suddenly the family starts realizing all the money they have to outlay in preparation for the child. And it is a significant amount of money. And the first 2 to 3 months are some of the biggest spends that a family have in raising their child. And so that's when suddenly that financial stress comes out, and we get a lot of questions about, how much it's going to cost the family to raise a child. The good news about that is that if we're getting somebody asking us about that, more than likely we can help get them on a budget to make sure they're managing their finances correctly. If we can get somebody on a budget, the likelihood of them sustaining it for the long term is really high. So that somebody that contacts us with that is great. From after that, the questions are more kind of like looking further into the future, like things like child tax credits we get questions on, and 529 plans. When should you start one? And the answer is almost always now. But
right away. Yeah, if you
yeah,
can.
but
Yeah.
so it's those kinds of questions that we get. With families too, we also get, interestingly, that's when people usually start thinking about life insurance. And we get questions on life insurance as well.
Absolutely. Nope, it's interesting because those are some of the things that we are also connecting folks to, but I love how just truly deep you and your coaches are able to provide that guidance and have those really meaningful, very detailed discussions. So appreciate your time, David. Thank you so much for walking us through what all you do, but then also why employers should be thinking about this for their employee population. Thank you everyone for joining. Again, we are so excited about our Wellbeing in the Workplace series. We're going to tackle emotional well-being and social well-being in our upcoming events. So be on the lookout. We will be reaching out with dates and times for that. Thank you so much, David. Very much appreciate
Thank you, Sarah.